And there it is. So thank you everybody for joining. I'm Ryan Okimoto, but I go by Oki. I lead our customer engagement here at Brilliant, been with the company a little more than 5 years now. Today we're going to be presenting on the future of smart communities and Brilliant's multifamily platform. For those of you that aren't familiar, we do have a multifamily platform. For those that are, this is going to be a refresh and also introduce you to some things that are maybe new since you've last touched on it. I am joined by Marcus Pollard. Marcus, go ahead and wave. Marcus Pollard is our national sales manager. He's going to be handling questions in the background for the chat and the Q&A. So if you do have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat, into the Q&A, and he'll handle any of the small one-offs. Maybe it's a feature or something like that. If there are greater thought topics, we will save about 5 minutes at the end of the presentation for any of those questions that we can kind of share a greater story and understanding of kind of what we mean and what we do for said question. We're going to be running about 45 minutes today. So there's a lot to cover, a lot to handle. But with that, we're going to jump on in. And with this, we want to talk about the future of smart communities. And we say smart communities right now. I really feel this is going to change. And if you've known me, talked to me about Brilliant in the past, I've used this reference before, but we're not going to be talking about these as smart communities in the future. We're just going to reference them as communities. And what I mean by that is that the expectation of technology is going to eventually become the standard and the norm. It's just how we talk about cars today. If I was to go out and buy a new car, I wouldn't say, hey, everybody, come check out my new smart car. You'd look at me kind of strangely and say, why is he calling it a smart car? But these cars now have infotainment systems. They nearly drive themselves. Some do. They park themselves. They do all these amazing things, but we just call them cars. The smart technology is now expected. Smart homes, smart communities eventually are just going to be our homes and communities because of the expectation of technology is just going to be there. So let's kind of plant that seed in our heads of what we want the expectation of technology to be as we think about how we are approaching this in the multifamily space. As far as our agenda today, we do want to touch on some of those context and market challenges, things that you are experiencing out there in the fields, things that we are seeing out there in the field, some reports that are out there, really understanding what those pain points are, how we can maximize our value, how we can really bring holistic solutions to developers, to operators, and to residents. From there, we'll then explain exactly how our platform operates. We'll show you the value of it from both a hardware and a software experience. In addition to that, we will show you a demo of this platform, both the software and the hardware. The hardware, you've probably seen a demo of me running around my house. We're going to do an abbreviated version of that. But the software, as we call Brilliant Command Center, that's kind of the magic that lives in the background to really bring value to the operators or these property managers as they're dealing with resident move in and move out, maybe alerts or notifications that need to happen across the property as it pertains to certain, key value props that they're looking for, energy efficiency, asset protection, things like that. We'll wrap it up with a Q&A and next steps, and that'll cover our full 45 minutes. So jumping on in, as we look at the market context and challenges, what does that mean? Well, the biggest piece to all of this right now, as we know it, costs are rising. Everything has been going up, and this is just a real life experience. Interest rates are hopefully starting to come down a little bit now as the Fed is starting to lower rates, but over the last 5 years, the consensus is things are up. Interest rates have been up. The cost of materials are up. Maintenance, fixing things, insurance, taxes, even the cost of energy. All of our costs are rising, and now if we want to make sure we're still taking care of it and handling all of it, even the payroll is up. So when we start to look at these costs, what inevitably happens? If we're thinking of a bottom line for a developer, well, the bottom line now becomes where can we cut costs? Where are things that, we maybe don't need? And traditionally, it has been some of that smart technology. Maybe people haven't understood the full value that smart technology has brought. Brilliant, unfortunately, that was one of those situations where we had a building we were lined up in, and then it just didn't quite work out. It didn't make sense. The costs were starting to rise, so they pulled technology out. And that's a fair understanding. Those are real things that can happen in the world. So that's where it's on us and kind of the smart technology community to provide solutions that start to make sense, that start to say, hey, for the smaller upfront cost or marginal cost going from a maybe standard lock to a smart lock or a standard thermostat to a smart thermostat, that little increase in value can then start to have that return for them, whether it's on the energy savings or the efficiencies of their on-site team. Those are the little pieces that we need to start to really raise attention to in order to make smart technology really the right solution for these developers. And it's not just developers. I mean, it's just the costs are all around in figuring out these pain points to make sure that, hey, even if it's a pain point within a technology itself, how can we simplify the operations? How can we simplify these pieces so that it is, in fact, the right solution for the property? So when we look at this, we know that the owners and operators, they've been doing their homework, doing their research, looking for those ways to reduce all these costs and really expand revenues because it is a business. There's a bottom line that they must maintain, and they're doing this to be profitable. They're not putting in smart technology in these amenities for the sake of doing it. It has to make sense from a business perspective. And one thing that was really great to hear recently, Marcus and myself were at a conference, and there was a developer that was talking about smart technology and how the first iteration of this was really, these are individual solutions that are great for solving this one specific problem. What these developers and property managers are starting to look for, they want these holistic solutions. So, hey, partners are working together, vendors are working together to come to them to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Developer, we have a holistic solution where we work together for the access control, for the energy efficiencies and other amenities to bring this combined solution. So that's kind of the next evolution of where smart technology is looking to go in that multifamily space. And that's what our platform really tries to highlight and tries to emphasize, that when we look at a multifamily platform, Brilliant's going to tackle it from both sides, from both a hardware and software, as well as a resident and property manager type of experience. So the value proposition that we are really trying to say and really want to resonate with you is that this is comprehensive smart home automation. So that's going to be from an operations side, from a resident experience, that's going to be specific to any type of multifamily property. And when I say any type of multifamily, I genuinely mean that. That means we can be in the A in luxury, maybe with a Brilliant control inside of those properties, all the way down to your affordable housing and market rate, where we can actually operate with just our software solution. There's not a need for a Brilliant control. So for every property that's going out there, whether it is new construction or it's a retrofit opportunity, Brilliant's going to bring at least one piece of that value prop that the developers are looking for. And we'll delve deeper into what those different experiences are, but essentially it's designed to add the value by streamlining those operations. How can we have technology, really hide in plain sight? And that's the best technology. A great example is when you walk into a grocery store, those doors automatically open, they automatically close. You never think about it, it just always works. So if we can provide an experience where the on-site team doesn't have to spend hours of training learning something new to make all the smart technology work together, that affords them the chance to do what they do best, which is provide a great resident experience. So whether that be key management, whether that be managing vacant units, all of those pieces, how can we streamline that? That's what our platform is going to start to bring. It's also now, because we're bringing technology in, it's actually a new avenue of revenue for the developer, whether that be a technologies fee, an amenity fee, or just a more premium experience within the property that you can raise those rents. That's going to be a key driver to, get back, recoup that investment of the cost of that smart technology. With that, this Gen Z renter or myself, an elder millennial, renters, we kind of expect technology to be there, and I'm happy with that. It's that resident satisfaction. The goal of technology, in addition to protecting the asset, being energy efficient, is also to make sure those residents are happy so they want to stay there, sign their lease, and stay there longer. They don't want to go to the competing property across the street. And the reality is these solutions do need to be inexpensive solutions to really work and make the most amount of sense. I'd love to say, let's throw in some super advanced, $5, $10, $20,000 control system in every single unit. But the reality is that is definitely not scalable. So how can we have some mass adoption across all of our units for new construction, for retrofit that just makes sense? And that's what Brilliance is going to slide into. So when we look at our platform, I mentioned this before, it is that combination of hardware and software. And we break it down into these buckets starting from the hardware side. Many of you know, for us, we really believe, and that's been the feedback, is it kind of starts and ends with access control. Access control makes sure the residents, of course, feel more safe, feel more secure. But most importantly, they're getting to the rooms, they're getting to the places and everywhere that they need to go in a seamless manner. It needs to be that singular app type of experience that says, hey, welcome to your new smart apartment or welcome to the community. You're going to get access to your unit, maybe the common area doors like the gym, the pool, and the mailroom, but they're not going to get access to those areas that we don't want them to have access to. Maybe it's the roof, maybe it's a maintenance closet. It's really just a way to streamline and improve the, I'd say, security as well as the convenience within the property. And that access control is going to work for unit doors, common area doors, as well as front of building entrances. So that's our access control side of it. When we look at energy management, that's of course going to be your smart thermostats being inside of those units. A key piece is always going to be, well, hey, how can we monitor the temperature within those units, as well as what can we do when those units are vacant? Well, when those units are vacant, Brilliant actually has the opportunity to not only set limits of highs and lows, but also make sure that those maybe thermostats are turned off when they are vacant. We don't need them to be running. We can set automation in there. So, hey, maybe at the end of each day, in case it was maybe turned on by a facility's staff that was doing some work, they forgot to turn it off. Hey, maybe there's some program that automatically turns those thermostats off every night so we don't have to worry about it. Again, it's part of that streamlining those operations, having that peace of mind that the devices are doing what they're supposed to be doing without having to physically go to that unit. And our platform will let us do that from the app as well as from our dashboard, which we'll show you in just a little bit. So all that ties into making sure we're driving down energy, saving money, and of course, possibly helping you meet the developer reach those ESG goals if that's part of it. The asset protection, that's going to be your water leak and freeze detectors. This is something that never really becomes an issue until it is an issue. Leak detection, the average cost, we'll see it a little bit later. There was a Parks Associate report that came out. It was just over, or in the low five figures, I should say. That is an average use case of a leak that happens. We've had partners tell us that they've had some serious high-end expenses, multi-million dollars when it comes to leaks, which is, it's very unfortunate. It's terrible to hear. But knowing that some investment in smart technology like leak detection could, one, not only give an alert locally, but two, give the notification to the on-site staff, to the facility staff, whether it be an email or a text message, so we can stop this before it becomes a greater issue and affects the subsequent units maybe around or below. This is a thing that one of our previous coworkers, he actually had to move units when he was living in an apartment because it was flooded. The unit above started leaking. He got, fortunately for him, moved to the penthouse suite and it was staying there for nearly a year. But the reality is that was a massive cost for the developer, for the complex, as they had to move the resident to another space. That's now essentially a free lease and something that they had to eat the cost of until they could get that resolved. So asset protection, we'll see that in higher humidity areas because there's humidity sensors in there, places where pipes freeze, pipes leak. We see it in student housing during the wintertime. Students are gone for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and who knows what's going on in those pipes? Well, we still need to be alerted to know when that's any sort of issue. So really, it's being proactive in stopping these leaks and freezes before they become greater issues for the property and the building. The last piece to this, of course, for the hardware is the smart apartment experience. So for those of you that are familiar with Brilliant, that's going to be your Brilliant control that's going to go inside of the unit. Maybe it can be for your maybe penthouse suites or some premium living. Not mandatory, but what the Brilliant control does is more familiar with the Brilliant story that you've been exposed to in the past. The kind of BYOD or bring your own device experience. So if I'm a resident and I want to add my own Sonos speakers, I can tie it into my system. If I have my colorful Philips Hue lights, I can tie that into my system. Maybe a Ring stick-up camera because I want to check in on my pet. All of that can be tied in with the smart apartment experience with a Brilliant control. It affords us the luxury of also doing smart lighting. So now that smart lighting can also tie a little bit into energy management. I talked earlier about how we can, automatically make sure thermostats are turned off. Well, we can set up the motion detection in Brilliant to make sure, if there's no motion in these units when they're vacant for more than 30 minutes, turn those lights off. Or every night at 7 o'clock at night, let's make sure lights are turned off, doors are locked, thermostats are automatically turned off as well. It's those pieces of automation that really bring the holistic system together. But the smart apartment piece is just the magic that keeps the residents exceptionally happy. And that's a key differentiator is, we have all these pieces and there's players out there that do maybe one or two of these aspects. But what about a fantastic resident experience that is a singular app? So now when they're brought into the community, say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Resident, welcome on in. Please use this link to download the Brilliant app. You get access to your unit and only your unit, those smart devices that are in your unit, as well as any of those common area doors that you deem okay. But now, tie in your personal devices so I can create my own, if it's student housing, maybe my study time scene. dims my lights, plays my music at a certain low volume, and changes the warmth of my smart bulb to maybe a warm light for better studying. Or if it's a maybe a luxury suite. Fantastic. I have my good morning scene. Again, I've brought in my Sonos. It plays my favorite good morning playlist at a certain volume, could potentially raise some shades, turn on lights to a certain brightness, but that automation throughout the day. So our platform here on the hardware side is designed to focus on both a resident experience and an operator experience for when those units are occupied as well as when they are vacant. The command center here, this is that software side of it that magically lives in the background. This is going to allow the operators to really have control and understanding of exactly what is happening on what property for what building. And they can look at this either A, through our dashboard, which is a web experience, or B, through the Brilliant application, which is again still that same app. They've just logged in as a property manager. So now we can use this tool to automate our resident turnover so that, hey, how do we wipe everything clean once they leave? How do we make it programmed so it's vacant and my on-site team can do it? How do we transition this to an occupied unit? We'll give you a demo of that here in just a little bit, but that's what our command center software can do on the back end. So now myself as an on-site team member, I don't have to lift a finger. I don't have to do a thing. And I know that my technology for these units, it's managed. That could be, new PIN codes if you're using smart locks that have a PIN code. Thermostats have been adjusted appropriately. Brilliant controls, if they've gone with smart apartments, previous resident information has been wiped clean and pre-programmed. There's even the ability to have pre-programmed scenes or automation. So when that unit is vacant, myself as an on-site team member, I can go ahead and hit begin tour and door unlocks, light turns on, thermostat adjusts. So now it's a great, comfortable experience as we walk into the unit. Conversely, when I'm done, we can pre-program an finish tour or end tour scene, which could do the inverse. Lock the door, turn off the lights, and maybe turn off your thermostat. So that resident turnover is key with that smart technology. It also allows us the ability to give real-time alerts for that water leak and freeze, as well as maintenance for maybe your thermostat as well. So this system is designed to be set up that we can give you email notifications, text messages, really hit you with the full gamut. So even if you're not in the platform, which we don't expect people to live in or the property managers to live in every single day, know that, oh, okay, if I'm getting a notification to my own preference, I know I'm now having my proper call to action to go address what could be a hopefully not a major issue, hopefully it's just a small issue, but I know exactly what I'm supposed to do and what my action item is. With this, the whole idea is to save them time, save them effort. We can automate these processes, whether it be specifically for the heating and cooling, for the lighting, for the access control. The property managers, one of the most valuable pieces that they can offer is their time to deliver a great resident experience. Our dashboard in here in the command center is designed to live in the background. So I know I can do what I need to do as a property manager. And when that time comes, I have my, again, action items. So we look at this as the holistic system to automate the move in, move out process, to give you your key assets and really know what those pieces might be. A big piece to all this as well as we look at, okay, well, let's look how do we sell this in? How do we differentiate? Our platform is a hubless platform. And what I mean by that is there's no extra gear, nothing plugged into a router, nothing hidden in a closet, nothing in a supply room or anything like that. We are designed to fit in all property types so long as there is Wi-Fi. And now we're not spending that extra cost on another additional device. So we don't have to worry about those devices being unplugged and taken and run away, as residents are kind of crafty like that. They'll do as they please within their units because they feel everything in there is theirs. You don't have to worry about that. Also, Wi-Fi has now become such a modern utility. It is a much more reliable type of system, and it's designed to just be the backbone of the connected community. For all these devices and all these pieces, I always say you need to invest in the Wi-Fi network, and Wi-Fi has become that modern utility. That's the backbone. Okay, from there, brilliant. We're just the central nervous system. We're sending commands out to all these different devices to tell them what to do and how to operate. So as it pertains to Wi-Fi, obviously new construction is a sweet spot. It's easy to pull that. But for a retrofit opportunity, as long as there's some sort of community-wide Wi-Fi, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but if we can do individual VLANs, that's perfect. If it's just a blanket hidden network for devices to remain online, we work in that sense. If you have questions, please let's set up a consultation call because there's a lot of nuance to it. I want to make sure you get all the proper information for the property that you're working on what those specific needs are. But again, Wi-Fi is that modern utility. We are a Wi-Fi based platform, no extra gear, no extra hubs, nothing plugged in anywhere, nothing hidden anywhere. So now we're saving costs by not having to invest in that. Previously, you maybe have a cellular data backup that you're hiding, which is fine. That worked in the past, but you're also paying a monthly fee for each one of those cellular chips to make sure you are then getting that backup as is needed. So it's just another point of excuse me, that we are trying to avoid. Last piece with Wi-Fi, we always get asked, oh, well, what if the Wi-Fi goes out? Well, your smart lock will still have a backup option. Your smart thermostat, you walk, it'll still adjust the temperature. For Brilliant, exactly, it's going to be that same experience. If we have Brilliant for the smart apartment experience, we're still going to control the lights because we do replace the light switch. But when the Wi-Fi comes back on, automatically everything is reconfigured and back to where it needs to be. So there's always some sort of backup option, never a worry, should service potentially go down from the ISP. But again, we are a hubless platform and a hubless experience. So as we start to look at these different things from a hardware side, from a software side, how can we bring the value to the developer? Because it's all about generating revenue. It's all about making more profitable, more desirable for them. So this is a very unique place that our value proposition can work for the cost savings in different ways. So what I mean by that is let's look at a scaled down experience of maybe there's no smart apartment by having a Brilliant control, but they just want to get the energy efficiency and the asset protection. Well, now you just have a marginal cost of upgrading from a regular thermostat to a smart thermostat and adding the cheap, inexpensive leak detectors. Now we're starting to talk about the energy savings. Now we're starting to talk about that asset protection that can bring value to them, especially if they've had these incidents in the past. They know what those costs are. Well, now we can bring that value there. As far as optimizing their workforce, how can we make their on-site team more efficient? We'll show you this demo of the platform, and the experience is seamless because they're not going to have to do anything. If I need to transition a unit, I do not have to walk to that unit. If I need to adjust a thermostat, I do not need to walk to that unit. If I need to make sure the keys are swapped or whatever it may be for a smart lock, guess what? I don't need to walk to that unit. So there's a lot of efficiencies that tie in with that to help the on-site team manage the smart technology better. Of course, that service and delivery, that's part of what that is. We want to bundle this together with managed Wi-Fi if possible. So, when we pitch this and we're talking with this, oftentimes what we're seeing now in the smart apartment space is there's some sort of technology fee or a premium brought to these units. These developers will know the prices that they can charge within their market, depending on the technology package that's involved. If you include bundled Wi-Fi in that, what we found hey, for bundled Wi-Fi, we're including smart lighting, Brilliant controls in there, smart thermostats, leak detectors. We've seen in the high double digits, even into the low triple digits for what these technologies fees can be to recoup their costs. Generally 2 years of time, sometimes less. If let's go down to a scaled down experience, maybe I only want to, again, just do, maybe not bundle it with Wi-Fi, but just a smart apartment experience. Well, maybe it might be in the 20s or the 30s. Again, it depends by market and by the technology offering, but there's always some sort of premium that you can provide or you can charge because this is a premium experience for those residents. So how can we maximize the experience? How can we get a positive reaction from the residents that they say, yes, I'm absolutely willing to pay this because of my personal experience here in the property? So a lot to think about as you're approaching the developers, whether it's, again, that new construction or retrofit. How do you want to attack that opportunity? Brilliant, we're trying to give you the tools, or the developer specifically the tools to say, hey, I can mix and match and pick and choose what's right for me specifically with this property, because what's right for one might not be right for another. Again, different strokes for different folks, different levels of technology. We offer it from kind of an entry level all the way up to a premium experience. So let's look at what these hardware solutions are, starting with, of course, the access control. I mentioned it before, intercom solution, common area doors, so gym, pool, mailroom, front of building, as well as those unit door locks. We can tie it in together, and they get access to all of those directly within the Brilliant app. So they are no longer app hopping to go from one app to another app. I need one for the intercom, one for the front door, one for my unit door. None of that. It's a singular app experience that when they join the community, they see all the doors that they're allowed to get into with some of our partners there at the bottom. So we look at the benefits of specifically access control. We loosely talked about it earlier, but now we're getting rid of the cost of physical keys, the cost of managing and replacing all of that. It's also an automation to let us know who gets access to what doors and when. We can even provide logs to say, hey, these people access these doors at these times. Should there be some sort of incident within your community, of course, we hope there never is, those logs are always available. The managing of it to remove access. Maybe we can want to select certain doors to be removed for a certain reason, or whether someone's moving out to not only give people access, but remove access. All of that is managed. And of course, it's reducing the time spent resolving any of these lockouts because we have these different types of solutions to get in. For the energy management side, that is going to be your smart thermostat. And I mentioned a little bit with smart lighting if it's going into smart apartment, but those are going to be your smart Wi-Fi connected thermostats. Our key partner here is Resideo and Honeywell with their T6 and T10 thermostats. But this is where I mentioned earlier the Parks Associates white paper. If you haven't seen that, my email, a sales email at the end of this, we encourage you to reach out and ask for it. We'll be happy to send that on over. It's finally a white paper that brings some data to smart technology in these communities because it's always, hey, we're telling you, yes, it reduces costs, it reduces energy efficiencies, and here are your savings. That finally has some data to back that up. So now with smart thermostats in every unit, we're actually reducing energy costs from 18 to 20%, which is a large number, especially if we're thinking of these larger mid-rise, high-rise that have, 3, 4, 500 units. But even if I'm a small developer and I have 50 units, 25 units, and some of those are vacant, those are still costs that I'm eating if those AC units are running when they're not supposed to be. So again, we're making sure those are never left on if they're not supposed to be. We're making sure we're getting alerts if those are running too hot or too cold or being overused. We get notified of that. The management of it to help automate it with the residents to make sure the energy consumption isn't too high or too low. And again, you can now market your, if you are the developer, you can market your property as highly efficient and energy efficient, as that is a very conscious thing, especially with the Gen Z renter. Hey, how can I be more conscious of my energy consumption and usage? So all of that ties in. For the asset protection, we're looking at the water leak and freeze detectors. There's also a humidity sensor in those water leak detectors, as well as the shut off valve, which is all tied in together. That's the L1 and then the L5 there with our partners at Resideo. Again, the notification preferences. We set it up. Great. It's all set up there for you. So now we can prevent the water leaks, or maybe not prevent. If they happen, it's going to stop it before it becomes a greater issue. I mentioned that low five figures. The average water damage incident according to the white paper, is 12,000. If you are a developer yourself, you might have seen some of this. You might have experienced some of this already where, hey, it was a little bit higher than this, or we had a smaller one, it was a little bit lower, but this is just the average. It really depends on how long that leak was going for, how bad it was, the timing to it all, and then whether it, made other residents move, if you had to house them in other places. So that early detection is really paramount to stopping those costs, as it can go by upwards of 75%. So again, it's all about speed. It's all about efficiency, letting the on-site team know exactly what they need to be doing and when. So now we can make sure our residents aren't disrupted. They're happy living there. And of course, we want to make sure by tying this in, there's also that opportunity of reducing your insurance costs as well. So that's the hardware perspective. The key piece, of course, the final that we love so much is the smart apartment experience. That's our brilliant in-wall control, the thing that you've known us to be for the last 5 years. That lets the residents bring their own device for lighting with the colorful bulbs, for thermostats, for access control, for music, the voice assistant, whether they're Amazon, Google, or Apple, the scenes and automation to have the technology work for you throughout the day. That's what we bring to the table to really deliver that elevated resident experience. And that ties in those different categories, and you can get creative around what those might be. I mentioned a Ring stick-up camera if I want to check in on my dog. I myself am a big music person. I absolutely am going to bring in my Sonos speakers into here. But you can also tie in window shades, security systems, all those different pieces, smart plugs, if they have their own personal smart plugs they want to add in. So a whole brand of a whole dearth of, brands, that we can tie in. That full list is always on our website. If you went to brilliant.tech, right at the top, we have a tab that says Works With. You click on Works With, you'll see all of our official partners listed right there. So how do we work? Again, we always want to emphasize this to make sure we are crystal clear. Our platform is that combination of smart hardware for the access, the energy, the asset protection, as well as your smart home or smart apartment. Some sort of property-wide Wi-Fi, whether it's just blanketing as a hidden network or specific managed individual VLANs. and our smart technology platform, which is the Brilliant Command Center, which is a combination of the web dashboard for the high level, as well as an individual unit control from the property manager version of the app. So let's say I myself am a property manager. That's great. I've seen how the residents use this. Well, how am I going to use this on a day-to-day solution? So the PMSs that we work with right now are Entrata and RealPage. And I want to be crystal clear, that is not a full stop for the other developers that are out there. Because we know many of you are using Yardi, AppFolio, just to name a couple. All that means is that now for that resident turnover, that move in and move out process, it's as easy as logging into our dashboard, plugging in an email and clicking send invite, or moving them out. It's as easy as clicking on that unit, begin resident move out, and start that move out process. So there is a ever so slight manual process as opposed to it being 100% automated. So Entrata and RealPage, that's 100% automated. Yardi, AppFolio, some of the others, absolutely, we can still do everything. All those value propositions that I talk about absolutely still remain. And I'll give you a brief demo of what that experience looks like so you can see just how simple it is. So the Brilliant Command Center in the middle, that is, of course, the dashboard. We can manage access to the digital keys, check the logs for who's going into what doors and when, automate the settings, manage the smart devices, individually manage move in and move outs. If we're not tied in with the PMS, that's all there. And most importantly, we can set up our alerts and notifications because the reality is they're not going to live in this every single day. They have things that they're doing across the property. So for my notifications, is it a text message? Is it a push notification? Is it an email? What is happening when across my property that I can set up as a property manager, or maybe my maintenance engineer wants different settings? Absolutely, we can set up those different settings. Residents, they're of course using the Brilliant mobile app. We're also using the Brilliant mobile app from the property manager side, but the two ways to control it are of course going to be the Brilliant mobile app, which is where most people will engage, but we also have a Brilliant control for the smart apartment experience. I always say it's like two remote controls controlling a television. If I turn it on, someone else can turn it off. It's just what is your preferred medium? Some of us are phones up. Great, use the app. A lot of families now are being phones down. We're trying to limit screen time. Great, you can go to your Brilliant control. Even taking it a step further, some of us are voice. We're very into using the voice. We can absolutely use the voice assistant to also control the system. So different strokes for different folks. We always talk about the apps and how can we simplify the experience. Oftentimes when I get asked, what do I do? Who do I work for? The easiest way for me to explain it is using that singular app experience. So I pull up my phone and you see me home control for me, and I have 9 different apps. We're showing you 9 there for the smart apartment. I swipe forward and I have 9 more apps, and I swipe forward again, 9 more. It's like, oh my gosh, I really do have all these applications. The one app for your lights, locks, doorbells, speakers, shades, garage doors, plugs, security systems. One app, one experience, and the ratings actually fantastic. We double checked this the other day. We're up to 4.8 stars from 4.7 with over 1,700 reviews. So that's no small feat to really understand that people, when they get Brilliant, when they experience the platform, they really are delighted with the simplicity of it. So again, making sure we're hitting that resident satisfaction, making sure we're giving them experience that makes them want to not only be there, but be there longer. So it's a very simple, but a very powerful thing to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Resident, your smart home experience, it's one app. It's simple. You can add devices to it if you're doing smart apartment. You can create your automation. It's easy to program. We work with you with how-to videos, step-by-step instructions, how to do all these fantastic features. And the fact that we are BYOD, that is going to be a big differentiator for the residents to be able to add their own devices. So that's a lot that I threw at you here. I'm cognizant of time. We have about 11 minutes left. So I do want to give you a brief demo of the software as well as the Brilliant hardware. So I'm going to exit out of this screen and going to go over here. There's my dog to my demo right here. And this is the Brilliant Command Center. This is the dashboard that the on-site team would be living in. Hopefully not living in too much, but we break it down by the total properties that property manager is managing. Maybe it's properties, maybe it's buildings within a property. We can build this to your specific needs, but I'll click on Beauvais properties as our basic example. You can see we break this down by floor and by unit, if that unit is vacant or occupied, and if there was any sort of issue. First question, of course, is, well, where do we gather this information? One of 2 ways. The first of which is we would tie into that PMS and trot a RealPage to collect all that information. If you're Yardi or one of those other ones, not a problem. You simply send over that through the initial setup of the community. We populate all of that on the background. So seamless experience for the developer no matter what. From there, we can also say, hey, if there's any sort of pressing issue. We can see Unit 102 has a climate issue. Unit 106 has a leak that's been detected. The first place I would go as that on-site team member, I'd click on my alerts bell on the upper right, and it tells me, hey, within Beauvais properties, Unit 102, it's 100 degrees. That's obviously an extreme example, but I've set my notification. And you tell us, hey, where do you want those notification thresholds? If it's hotter than 80 degrees or colder than 65 degrees, shoot me that notification. Absolutely, we set that up for you. Additionally, the other one, a leak was detected in Unit 106. Yes, that's a major issue there. Hey, let's go on over. But I shouldn't have to go into the platform to understand what's happening. And we just talked about this before, the notifications. So when we onboard a new developer, we work with them to say, hey, let's get your property manager set up. Let's get your facility staff and maintenance engineer set up. And let's tweak their account settings. So now if there is some sort of issue with maybe the thermostat, just shoot me an email. I don't need a text message. But if a leak was detected, yeah, shoot me an email, shoot me a text message, give me the full gamut, bombard me because I need to stop that before that becomes a greater issue. So now you go to Unit 106, you fix that issue. Once you fix that issue, you can then get, or it will then provide you a text message saying, hey, that leak has been resolved. You are good to go. We also give you those alerts if there's low batteries in any of those smart locks. So you know you can go and replace the batteries before, hey, it doesn't work and I'm stuck to, my backup means of getting into the unit. So again, different preferences can be set for the property managers, for the maintenance engineers, for facility staff. And there's no limit to the number of maintenance engineers and facility staff that we can add on the back end to this. So simple and easy to set that up. That makes it so for the most part, we're not going to have to live in here. The next piece to the dashboard is how do we move people in and out? Well, I mentioned before that would be automated with the PMS, so you don't have to come into this. But let's say you do want to come into here. Well, let's move someone in and move someone out. I'll click on Beauvais Properties, click on Unit 103 here, which is a vacant unit. We're able to see all the technology that's in there right now, but here's this main button, Invite New Resident. So I'm going to click Invite New Resident, and this tells me exactly what's going to happen. Hey, the resident's going to be invited to the home and the devices. This invite will remain active for 7 days. If you need to send it again, we can always send the invite again. But any previous settings that were applied when it was vacant, that will all be removed, and that unit will be configured for that resident. I myself simply plug in that new resident's email and click Send Invite. That's it. It's as easy as that. Once they've accepted, they're into their unit. They get access to those smart devices, the common area doors, thermostat, pretty much any of that smart technology that the developer has decided to deploy. View the resident, and sure enough, there we go. We're good to go. So now this is an occupied unit. I doubt there's any questions on how to add somebody in, which is good because removing somebody, it's just the inverse. It's just as simple. So Unit 103 is occupied. Let me click Edit Resident. Hey, let's start the resident move out. Now this is telling me explicitly what's happening if I'm not familiar. Hey, the resident's going to lose access to the home and all those smart devices. So that's smart lock, smart thermostat. Don't have to worry about it. They'll be notified about this via email saying, hey, we hate to see you go, but just so you know, all of your personal information, maybe it's the nice photos that you uploaded, the scenes, your personal Sonos speakers that were tied into the system, that is all wiped clean, and that unit is automatically reset and reconfigured to whatever you tell us you want the vacant state to be. So I click Confirm Resident Move Out. That's it. I'm done. That is our manual process, and I use quotes very loosely because it's simple, it's easy, it's straightforward. That's all we have to do to move someone in and out. And now that unit is available to manage from the Brilliant app by the property manager. The other piece I do want to show you here is if I click on Configure, I talked about door access and those pieces. Well, hey, here's how it works. We generally set this up one time, but Unit 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, let's add these units and let's mass assign these devices to the entry, gym, pool, and mailroom. And voila, just like that, those units have now been assigned any of those common area doors. So if maybe Marcus was a bad resident, he didn't re-rack his weights in the gym, I could remove access to him if I needed to, and then he couldn't get to the gym. I would just come back in here and re-add that common area door. Additionally, I talked about those logs. If there was, for some reason, an incident, you need to double check who was getting into what door and when, just click on Access History, and there it is. We can see the person, the door, the property, the day, and the time. You'll have access to double check, cross-reference, should there be any sort of event. So a very straightforward and simple platform. It's not designed to be this crazy robust experience where I'm locked in here trying to manage everything. It needs to work seamlessly for the resident, needs to work seamlessly for the property manager. That's what this is doing. Now, that's the dashboard. We talked about the app. How do I manage those vacant units? I want to turn off a thermostat, manage the lights. Let me go ahead and click over here. And this is what that experience is for the property manager. They download the same brilliant app that they normally would. At the bottom, we actually have a login as building manager. So they log in with the same email that they use to get into our dashboard. They put in their password, which is great. There's a quick dual authentication just to make sure they are, in fact, who they say they are. If they haven't set up their PIN and this is their first time setting it up, just a quick PIN to get into the app. And now they're in. There's those same properties. Let's go ahead and click on Beauvais properties. We break it down for vacant units they can get access to. If I click on all, you'll see all the units that are there. Those are grayed out and occupied, and that's for resident privacy and security. We don't want them messing with the unit while it's occupied. So let me go back to vacant, and I'll click on unit 106. And hey, let me double check the lights. I know maintenance was in there, and they say, oh, they left the ceiling light on, or I want to turn the light up or turn on the nightstand light. I can absolutely go ahead and do that. Let me back out of lights and go to my thermostat. Oh, hey, the thermostat was set to heat. It's gone. It's empty. It's vacant right now. Let me go ahead and change that to off. And now that thermostat is set to off. The leak detectors and freeze detectors, those are in there as well. If I wanted to double check my door, hey, I left that door unlocked for unit 106. Just like that, I've locked my door. We're using a PIN code type of smart lock. Hey, let me double check. What is that PIN code? Here's the PIN code for unit 106, and that gets me into these doors. Again, if it's a PIN code lock, those would automatically reset every time someone moves in and someone moves out, and the doors would be allotted appropriately. So simple, easy configurations, simple, easy access. Even those pre-programmed scenes, like I mentioned, for when a unit is vacant, I can go ahead and start a tour. Maybe that turns on my lights, unlocks the door, and turns on the thermostat. And then I'm done giving a tour. Or maybe, hey, we've done it remotely. I just sent them on up. Hey, I see them leaving. I hope you enjoyed your experience. I can then go into my app and click End Tour, and that could do the inverse. Turn off my lights, lock my door, and turn off my thermostat. So a singular app, a singular experience, a singular platform, all designed to give that great value. So let me go ahead and go back to our presentation as we start to put a little bow on this. Before I do that, let me stop my share. Of course, I talked about a quick experience. Let me spotlight myself for everybody. Spotlight for everyone. I did mention I give a brief demo of the hardware, and sure enough, here's that resident experience. There we go. There's my wife with my aunt and uncle's little dog, but residents can upload up to 50 photos on here, and we get it. Not everyone is going to be super well versed in technology. Maybe I only want to use this as a light switch. I can tap on my slider, my light turns on. If I want to dim my lights down, I just dim my lights down just like that. Same thing for my right slider, turns on a light, turns off a light. And you see two sliders here because this replaced what was previously two light switches that were in the wall. I don't even have to interact with those sliders if I don't want to. Quick swipe up on my screen turns that light on. Quick swipe down turns that light off. And a two-finger swipe up or down turns all the lights in this room on or off. So I just did that two-finger swipe, and you can see both the track light and the sink light are on. That same two-finger swipe down turns off both my lights. Continuing on, I have those can lights there, which are wired to that Brilliant control. So let's go ahead and control that from here. Now, I could go into my Brilliant app, but because I'm sitting here in front of the control, let's switch it from the kitchen to the living room. And sure enough, let's turn off those can lights. And now those can lights are off. I also have that corner lamp, which is a smart bulb that's on. I'll show you. There's that bulb right there. It's on, but because it's one of those smart, colorful bulbs, let's take it a step further. Edit the color. I know some of you have been waiting for this. Let's go ahead and Roxanne this and turn on a red light. And just like that, you have a bad dad joke and a red light right there. So you start to get the idea with the lighting. If I wanted to add my own speakers for Sonos, let's go ahead and jump back in to my music, play some 70s Spotify real quick. I'll tap on 70s Spotify. Looks like we're getting some Boston More Than a Feeling here in the late morning, early afternoon. Let me crank this up so you can go ahead and hear it. That's a little bit of a slow start. There we go. You should be able to hear it now. It's nice and loud, so back out. I have a widget on my main home screen. Go ahead. I can group my rooms together or quickly pause the music. Whew, that was nice and loud. We're good to go from there. Other pieces, the Amazon Assistant is built in. Security, shades, my access control. Hey, if I needed to grant access to the building through the intercom system to the front door, that could be my unit lock, my common area doors. It's identical from here all the way to the application, even accessing those Ring cameras. Let's go ahead. It is garbage day for me. I'm going to access my side gate cam, which is just a Ring spotlight cam. Sure enough, trash is still there. Looks like they haven't come yet today, but maybe it's a stick-up cam to check in on your dog. All those experiences are there. Additionally, your scenes and automation, all lights on. Well, what the heck? Let's see the house light up. All lights on. Got bright in here, got bright out there. Let's turn all our lights off. Conversely, all lights off. Quick, simple, and easy. It can be your begin tour, end tour scene. It's all tied in together. So with that, that is a robust experience and demo. Let me, again, put that bow, share my screen one more time. Share my screen here. We are on it. Start the slideshow. There we are. And so when we look at the benefits, what are we trying to do and accomplish? Well, of course, we want to make sure that developers are, being able to make as much as possible. Smart technology is absolutely a benefit that should be included and should be paid for. So again, amount of technology will dictate where that goes, how much it is on the area. Differentiating, if we have two identical buildings, hey, what makes people want to come to our property as opposed to the other? Smart technology can do that. Easily have residents move in and out, manage their deliveries, give them a way to add their own devices. This is truly an experience that residents want and can be that wow factor that makes them sign with this developer as opposed to the developer across the way. We're making sure they're happier, they're staying longer, they want to continue to be there, they're talking to their friends about it to create a better community experience. And our solution is flexible for all those budgets, regardless of its A and luxury, all the way down to, like I mentioned before, affordable housing and market rate, depending on that strategy. Great for retrofits because there's maybe not even a need for physical hardware from Brilliant. You just upgrade your smart lock to a smart lock, thermostat to a smart thermostat, and it all can tie in together. So there's a lot that I threw at you. I'm sure there's been a few questions that have come on in. We'd love to schedule some time to speak with you. Whether it be on a personalized experience, if you're an integrator that's working and wants some support in pitching those developers, we want to make sure we're supporting you. If you are a developer, you can reach out directly to us and we will have that consultative call to figure out what your goals are. What are you trying to accomplish? How can we help you get there and what this process means for you? And if you have general questions, that's where we're here and we want to help you out. So there's my information. You can always email sales@brilliant.tech. That'll come into all of us, Marcus, myself, the rest of the team, and kind of depending on location and opportunity, we'll make sure you're speaking with the proper person. So a lot that was there. I'm going to quickly look into the chat. Looks like the chat is empty. I think Q&A was handled. I do have a couple questions here if you're able to hang on, as I know we're past the 45 minutes. See, how does Brilliant's platform differentiate itself from other solutions in the multifamily space, and what key features do you believe will drive the most value for property owners and tenants? Great question there. I'm not going to speak specifically to any of the other platforms and experiences. The way Brilliant we're really able to differentiate is from a holistic resident and on-site team experience. The fact that our on-site team experience, it magically lives in the background, so they don't have to learn another platform. They're already inundated with systems and pieces. That's just so much. And the fact that we can actually work with you and help you choose those partner devices. So if you have a preferred lock experience, we'll be that consultant with you. We'll kind of let you mix and match and pick and choose in that a la carte type of experience for what you're looking to accomplish. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. We work with you regardless of your situation. Another one here. With the growing trend of automation and property management, how does Brilliant incorporate these technologies to improve operational efficiency, tenant engagement, and decision-making for multifamily operators? A little bit of the same story there. So these technologies are all designed to create the operational efficiencies. What Brilliant does through our platform, we make it automated. We make it 100% in the background. We make it so simple and easy to use that that's the magic. That's the secret sauce of making sure everyone is happy. That's touching our experience. As the multifamily housing market faces increasing demands for sustainability and energy efficiency, how does Brilliant support property managers in meeting these challenges while also enhancing the tenant experience? The market challenges, of course, are tied in with, we talked about them earlier, the costs of everything, the cost of energy, the cost of smart technology. When we're working with these property managers, we're trying to solve for those key pain points, which have been, thermostats running when they're not supposed to be running. How do I manage all of this? How do I automate all of this? Those are the pieces that Brilliant and our platform has been able to deliver to make it such a seamless experience. So property managers are going to love Brilliant because they generally don't have to learn to do too much. It's such a quick learning curve, and the access for them to get to every unit, to not have to leave their seat, to walk to all these units to double check what's happening, none of that is there. How does Brilliant's platform help multifamily operators streamline communication between property management teams and tenants? And what impact does this have on overall resident satisfaction? Well, the streamlining of communication is obviously going to come through the notifications that we provide, whether it be through email, whether it be through text message, because these things obviously are directly going to affect the residents. So if we, as let's say we're the property manager and the team, we can solve these issues before they become experience issues by the resident or pain points for the resident. That's going to, of course, keep the residents happier and drive up their satisfaction. So it's all about making sure that the technology is in lockstep with the on-site team to make sure residents' issues are solved or maybe resolved before they even become an issue. So the notifications that we provide through email, through text messages, through our app, that's that seamless experience to keep those residents happy. And of course, property managers efficient in everything that they do. As the industry continues to evolve with new technologies and changing tenant expectations, how does Brilliant ensure that its platform remains capable, or I should say scalable and adaptable to future trends in the multifamily market? That's kind of the beauty of software. Software is always just an update away from working with the newest, latest, and greatest, from adding another partner, adding a new integration. So while right now we're doing, we're doing push notifications, or I should say text messages, email alerts for thermostats, for locks. We want that feedback. A big feedback piece is we'd love to see work tickets created. We don't do work tickets created as of right now within the PMS, but that's great that you're telling us this so our team continues to work, continues to evolve, continues to build on what that desirable experience is. So, it's always a software update away. We're going to continue to enhance and build this product over time, but it's your feedback, it's your insights that make sure we're always staying on the cutting edge, delivering what's going to make you as selling this more successful and you as a developer happier with a more holistic experience. Like I mentioned in the beginning, instead of being a siloed individual experience, how can these vendors work together to provide the holistic experience?